Hello everyone, and welcome to the English Teacher's Guide to the new GCSEs, and we're focusing on the EDEXCEL English Literature exam today. And in this video we're going to look at how to plan question A for the Shakespeare and post-1914 exam, which is paper 1. Okay, brief information about this brand new exam. So this paper, the Shakespeare and post-1914 literature, is 50% of your GCSE. Remember, it's all exam based now, terminal, so there's no controlled assessment, so it's all how you perform on the day. The exam is 1 hour and 45 minutes in length, and there are two sections. The first is Shakespeare, and there are two questions. One is based on extracts, and that's what we're going to explore today. The other is an essay based on the same play, but the whole text. The second section of the exam is based on the post-1914 piece of literature you have studied, and that's just one essay. Okay, two tasks for you now. Firstly, what does the mark scheme say you need to include to achieve 20 out of 20? And what method should you use to plan in order to accomplish 20 out of 20, which is perfect marks? So let's see if you understand the new GCSE, and let's see if you've been revising. Feel free to pause this and then play when you're ready to carry on. So here's the mark scheme. So to achieve perfect marks, you need to do the following things. Be assured with your response, showing a high level of engagement with the text. So sound confident. Make sure that what you're coming up with is intelligent. And that then kind of mirrors our second bullet point. So develop with maturity, perceptive understanding and interpretation. So make sure your analysis, make sure your ideas are not basic, not simple. They are high level, they're intellectual. Discerning references is essentially making sure that you're using integrated quotations, making sure you're using one-word quotations, not just quoting chunks out of the text. And finally, there's an excellent understanding of context. So are you aware of how this extract works within the play? And potentially, are you aware of how it works within a social and historical aspect? Now, planning method. Overall, for this exam, you should be thinking about 10 minutes of planning and 20 minutes of writing the response. But to plan, obviously, we always read the question carefully, making sure to underline the key parts. You have to understand what you're doing, and that's the same for every single question. Read through the extract, making sure to underline anything that you feel might be useful in your analysis. Then write down 3 or 4 or 5 ideas which answer the question. Select the best 3, and these are your points. And these points could either be examples of the theme or could explain how the writer makes us feel about that theme. So for instance, conflict is seen as destructive. Once you've got your points, go back to the extract and locate at least one piece of evidence to prove each is correct. Remember, you must make sure you're also referencing structure and form in order to achieve the marks you need to achieve. And then finally, once you've got your evidence highlighted, you need to make sure you've got notes of analysis around your evidence which explains how you are correct. Once you've got all those things, it's simply a case of writing out in full sentences. So note that down and let's move on. So shall we look at a question then? So explore how Shakespeare presents the character Macbeth as being uncertain in this extract. Refer closely to the extract in your answer. So obviously you underline the key parts of it. And then let's think about how we can go about planning. So here is an example of what the exam paper might look like. I've written my own one obviously to make sure that you guys can use this in the future. You can see that our scene is taken from Act 1, Scene 7, and just like in the exam paper, you'll get a brief outline of what's happening in that scene to help you out. You can see, if you look to the right hand side, let's imagine I've highlighted my evidence, I've underlined it, I've written down the number. So the second one here, I've started with number 2, just my second point. When you look at the how to answer video, that'll be point number 2. So I've said my point is it's guilt. How do we know Macbeth is feeling uncertain? Well, because he feels guilty. How do we know Macbeth is feeling uncertain? Well, let's look at how he describes the king. And then thirdly and finally, how do I know he's uncertain? Well, look at how he talks about the rewards the king has given him. You can see there, I then put down my evidence. So this part, plague, is the language. Soliloquy is looking at the form. And then judgment again is looking at language. You can write this in as short a kind of wording and symbols as possible. I'm obviously writing mine out in kind of full sentences here so you understand it. But write how you would write if you were sending a message, for instance, online or via your mobile phone. Because obviously it's about getting the information you need in the quickest time possible. So you can see here, plague, I've said obviously highlights a negative idea. It's also obviously the perception it's a disease that will kill him and harm others. And that's why it shows he's feeling guilty. The use of soliloquy. So soliloquy is the character thinking out loud. highlights his internal feelings, which again we now understand them to be negative, and then you have the idea of judgment there. And then our next point, which will be point number 1 in the answer video, is a description of the king. He's referred to as great. The user similarly like angels. So again, you can see my notes of analysis. The / means I have more than one interpretation. So excellent king, he's doing an important job. Using the idea of angels suggests that God supports him. So of course there's a reason why I feel uncertain. I feel like we're doing something which goes against God. And third and finally, you can see my point is about the rewards he's been given. So the king has recently honoured him. He talks about the golden opinions that he's been given. And you can see in my notes of analysis there, valuable, honour, promotion, pride. Others see him as highly regarded. And then again, I've looked at structure here. So the syllabic structure, it stresses the word honour and it stresses the word golden because he's using the iambic pentameter structure. And that helps to show the importance of these things to Macbeth. So you can see that I would have highlighted my ideas, noted down my points, and then I'd write brief notes of analysis around it. That should take no more than 10 minutes. And it's really obvious that all I need to do is write those out in full sentences and I get perfect marks. So, that's how to plan. Thank you very much. Make sure that you refer to the how to answer video in order to see what that looks like in perfect mark written form. Keep revising. Thank you very much.